Hold your head as high as you can, high enough to see who you are, little man. Life sometimes is cold and cruel, maybe no one else will tell you, so remember that you are black gold, black gold. You are black gold.
Hello, I'm your host, Michelle Thomas, and this is Artistic Expressions. Today's interview, we have Alvin Carter Sr., also known as Brother Abu, and he's here with his group, Smoke and Mirrors, and we are definitely in for a treat of phenomenal sound to the interview and just enjoying the musical explosion that you are about to hear. Thank you for joining Artistic Expressions.
We have a group called Smoke and Mirrors. It's a trio. On my right is Maxine Martin, fabulous reed person. On my left is Jim Mersick, fabulous strings. And we'd like to make some more music for you this afternoon. So we're going to play a tune called Work Song. I first heard this song at the Apollo Theater, and it was done by Oscar Brown Jr. So this is Work Song. Next tune we like to do is called Sunny Side. And it's one of my favorites. I'm sorry I don't know who wrote this, but I just love to play it.
Yeah, I don't know who wrote it.
Jimmy, who wrote it then?
I don't know.
Okay. You know Maxie?
I don't know.
We don't know,
But we love it.
but we love it. So here it is, Sunny Side.
Artistic Expressions. I'm Michelle Thomas, your host. And we just heard from Brother Abu and the group Smoke and Mirror. Phenomenal selection, just incredible energy and passion within their music craft. So now we're going to interview Brother Abu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you.
Yes, it is an honor and my sincere and absolute pleasure. This is a very beautiful moment for me as I admire your work, who you are as a person, and just what it is you offer the universe. Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to kind of get to know more about who you are and how you've arrived to where you are and where you're going. So I guess we can just kind of start right in with what kind of music would you categorize what you do, or if it fits in a category to you?
Well, I never try to categorize the music. I mean, there are some things, for instance, if we do a tune like Bright Mississippi, as Monk did mm-hmm. that, so that would probably be characterized or classified as jazz, but we do some of everything, but whatever I do is always African inspired.
Yes.
Whether it's folk music, I mean, I played with groups, we played Bob Dylan with congas, and so.
Nice, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about your early start, like your passion? What was your passion coming in?
Wow. Well, I have to take you all the way back to the Bronx, New
Nice.
York, and this would be right around 1952.
Okay, before I was a thought. Okay.
And yes, and I had just moved from. My family had just moved from Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, to the Bronx, and so I was attending school at PS 63, and one day I heard this wonderful sound. I don't think I'd ever heard anything quite like that, and so. I realized that it's in the direction of my school.
Okay.
So I walked a little faster. Finally, I started running. I ran into the schoolyard, and two of my classmates were playing this beautiful, hand-painted tackhead conga drum.
Okay.
And they were so well coordinated. They were playing the drum at the same time, but they weren't getting in each other's way. That was what amazed me. And so, I was like, hey, what is that? So,
Yeah.
He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, it's a Congo drum, man. I said, oh, thanks. That's beautiful, man. And then I went on to class. Excuse me. So that was my first encounter.
Wow.
Then I realized I lived next door to one of the members of Bobby Orton's group. Bobby Orton had organized teenage percussionists. And I lived next door to him.
Right.
And so I happened to see him on Ed Sullivan. I was just like, oh, wow, that's Francis. That's, I know that guy. And then,
wow.
So then, he started talking to me about it. And then further down the street was this guy named Teddy, who was a really fine percussionist. He played congas. So he taught me my first rhythm on congas. And then, I just kind of stayed with it. I don't know if I've ever been passionate about it, but I've always been in love with the conga drums. I've had a chance to deal with other drums. Excuse me, the djembe drum is very popular.
Yes.
And my son, Alvin Carter Sr, is a wonderful percussionist. He plays drum set, djembe, congas, bongos. I still am trying to learn to play congas.
Right.
That's my first
like
love.
My whole life, I'm still trying to play.
Well, there you go. So, that's where it first started. And my mother, of course, didn't want me to be involved because she said, no, out there, all those old dope fiends, playing music and jazz. And so,
Fiends playing music and jazz.
Yeah, but my aunt Emma bought me a nice set of bongos.
Yeah.
My first drums I ever owned.
And how old were you then?
I was by that time I was about 14 years old.
Yeah.
So I had my first set of bongos, and I used to sit and play, and so, my mother was she wasn't happy about it, but she didn't discourage me either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What about when she heard you play?
Well, and she said, oh, okay, well, but don't listen. We live in an apartment. You can't be making a whole lot of noise.
That's right. No, that's right. I cut that out at some point.
So, I just kind of not really having a chance to play during my high school years, except I knew this one guy named Jerry LaFrance. And Jerry was our genius. Jerry could do anything. He could fix cars. He could take a junk car and put it together and it would run. He was the first person I ever saw fly radio-controlled airplanes.
Yeah.
He said that he wanted to play flute. 6 months later, he was
playing
playing the flute. And
wow.
he played congas. So I used to bribe Jerry. I'd say, hey, Jerry, man, you know what you're doing today? Can I come by? I said, look, man, I got some India ale, man. And he go, well, all right.
All right.
And so, I played with him for a while.
Yeah.
And then I went into the service, and I bought my first conga drum in the service. And unfortunately, I was stationed in Orlando, Florida. And I had a very, very bad encounter with the dice. And I lost my paycheck.
Are you serious?
I lost I didn't even roll the dice. I was just making side bets.
Right.
But I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 18 years old. I had no idea. I'd never been away from home before.
Oh my
and this guy said, hey, I bet you $2 he don't make that point. And I go, oh, okay.
Right.
Bet. So now I got into him. I lost about $10. I'm like, I gotta try to make my money back.
Right.
And I wound up losing. And at that time I was only getting like $35 of payday anyway.
Right.
And payday was every 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So, I had to pawn my drum.
Oh my goodness.
To get home. And it's probably still there in Orlando if that one stop is still there. But I had a chance to start playing there.
Okay.
And then I came, I was transferred from McCoy Air Force Base in Florida, which is right outside Orlando. And this was Orlando before Disney World.
Right.
It was nothing but a big lake and
some swampland down there.
And a fountain that turned colors and big neck sweaty sheriffs. So it was serious. But anyway, I got transferred to Westover. And in Springfield. And so my wife got me a pair of drums for my birthday. So I started playing again. And then I met this guy named Frank Hatchett, who at that time had just come in from Las Vegas. And he was from Springfield, and he was starting in school. And he said, hey, I'm looking for a drummer. Would you like to come play for my drum classes? And I said, oh, okay. So I had another friend of mine, Marshall Small. I taught him some rhythms, and we would play for Frank. And it was pretty nice. We played. He had a studio on Eastern Avenue in Springfield, and so my wife started dancing with him professionally.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and she was pretty good, and so Frank signed up for this tour. He was going to go to Sweden, and then to Japan. And Pat was pregnant with my second son, Andre.
Okay.
So she couldn't go. That was my first wife, and she never forgave me for that.
Right.
Well, I can't say that I blame her, but
Did that group have a name?
Well, again, I seem to gravitate toward trios because this was like a flute. Somebody was playing bongos. My friend Bruce was playing bongos. Ernie Robinson was playing flute, and I was playing congas, and we used to call ourselves Stumble, Fumble, and Fall.
I like that. Just being honest.
Because we were just having a lot of fun, and we got a chance to play at some of the local clubs and stuff during the break. Not that we ever got paid for it, but it was a lot of fun.
Right.
And I kept that up, and then I went back to New York, and this was I got out of the service in 1963.
Okay.
I went in 59.
Wow. Wow.
And
You did your time.
yeah, I did, my 4 years, and they asked me if I wanted to re-enlist, and I laughed in their face and walked out.
Right. I feel you.
So, and
It's hard for an artist.
I'm glad I did. You know why?
Yeah.
Because just before, they were still calling it Indochina.
Mm-hmm.
But, that was when they were having flare-ups in Laos and Cambodia.
Yeah.
And so, I said, no.
You got out at the right
yeah,
time.
I'm going home.
Right, yeah.
You know. So, my wife was still pregnant with my second son, Andre. And we moved back to the Bronx.
Yeah.
And, it was a difficult time. And so we weren't able to remain together, but I stayed in touch. We both stayed in touch with Frank Hatchett and Marshall in Springfield. And so one day Marshall called me and said, hey, Al, man, I got this group of young guys I've been working with. I showed them everything I can. Why don't you come up and show them? So I would come up. And then one day somebody said, man, you up here so often. You ought to move up here.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
And I said, wow, that's a pretty good idea.
So that's how you got your footing here.
Yeah, and I first I went to Springfield,
Yeah.
and I was working with Frank. Then Brother Carl Hardwick came up and heard me and said, hey, listen, there's some brothers in Hartford that could use this kind of instruction. We try to do something like this. And so Carl brought me to Hartford.
Okay.
And
so what was your first group in Hartford?
well, it actually wasn't a group, it was a class. It was Sand Everywhere School. At that time, John Wilson and Earl Shepard was the director of, I mean, he was like the principal of Sand Everywhere School. And John was like the head of the board of directors and everything. And so they hired me, and I couldn't believe it. Like they said, we want you to teach 3 days a week, an adult class, and
what were you
a
teaching?
children's class. I was teaching congas.
Okay.
I was teaching.
Yeah.
That's about all I knew. So, but I was willing to share, and from there, other people start coming to the class, and I was in heaven because they said we want you to teach a class during the day for the students, and then in the evening for the adults. And so they said, well, what do you want? I said, what do I want? I don't know. They said, well, we're going to give you $50 a session.
Artists. We never know how to do
I just was happy somebody was going to give me the opportunity to play,
Absolutely.
And so, I did that for a couple of years, and then they started up the Artist Collective.
Yes.
And Jackie had heard about me, and he called me up and said, hey, man, why don't I'd like to talk with you. And I was like, wow, I'm being interviewed by Jackie McLeod.
Yep. Here we are. Hartford Zone.
Yeah, in Hartford, So when I told the person that I was staying with at the time, he went, what? Because he was a jazz buff.
Yes.
So he had like every album Jackie ever put out.
Yeah.
And so,
That's awesome.
I interviewed with Jackie, got the job, and I started with the Artist Collective, and I was their first conga instructor.
Yeah.
And then
that's history there.
Yeah, because this was back in '73.
Yeah.
Talking about, 73. So it was a really nice thing. They didn't even have a building yet.
That's right, because they were in the school.
Right.
Back was it Barber Street or something?
Well, that was even before Barber Street. Here's what happened. They would go around. Cheryl Smith was teaching dance. She taught us sand, and I taught a couple classes of sand. And I would play for Cheryl. And then finally they got a building, I think right around 74 or the end of, and they got the building on Windsor Street.
Yep.
And so I became the conga instructor and the custodial engineer.
I know that's right. Call it what you want.
But it was wonderful. And some really beautiful souls crossed those thresholds.
Sure.
I met a lot of wonderful people. So I never regret coming to Hartford. I call myself an escapee from New York.
Yeah.
Because I left a lot of, negative stuff behind me. After I broke up with my wife, I sort of got involved with, drugs, and I was finally able to clean that up.
Yeah.
and I came to
And yep,
Springfield
started
and then
over
Hartford. And I came to Hartford with 2 drums and a good woman by my side,
Right.
Trudy Owens.
Yeah.
And she now she's living in Texas. She is a herbalist and also a nurse.
Right.
So she's a fabulous person,
Oh,
I still stay in touch. I give her a call every
Right,
now and then
right,
and see
right.
how she's doing.
I can get
You know.
tentacles out.
But Carl, you know, I stayed with Carl when I first came here, and I've been here ever since. And I call Hartford my power spot.
Right.
I love Hartford.
I know you do. You really, you are here. There's no doubt about that.
Now we'd like to take you south to Brazil. And the name of this tune is Brazil, but I think in Portuguese it's called Aguilero do Brazil, right? The watercolors of Brazil.
Watercolors.
I think that's what it translates to. So this is Brazil, one of my favorites. And you get a chance to feature my good friend Jim on guitar.
your different groups that you've been a part of while in Hartford, because I know you have some real good core.
Yes, I've been blessed to play with some really wonderful musicians. My son formed a group called Legacy.
Okay.
And I was his percussionist, and still am, you
How
know.
cool is that?
And then I played with Rich McGee and Margot Hayes, you know, they're fabulous artists. So, you know, I just been blessed to play, and you know, and then I met George Fuentes, who became a part of Conga Bop, and Ed Fast, and I, you know, would play with them sometimes, and I just started meeting a lot of, you know, my good friend Tony Gonzalez, who plays for Espada. I remember him when he was in high school. He was going to Shanti school.
Right.
Okay, that was I forgot what they called it, but it was a different, wasn't like it
Like
wasn't
a
a city
traditional
school.
kind of
Yeah, it wasn't a
school. Right,
traditional
right,
high
right,
school,
right.
but it was like it's centered on the arts.
Okay.
And so, you know, he was involved in percussion, and you know, I got a chance to meet Espada, and every now and then they let me sit in with them on Secaré.
That's amazing.
I know some wonderful musicians. There's, to me, one of the best musicians you probably won't ever hear. His name is Robert Bryan. He's a fantastic percussionist, you know. But, you know, he is not interested in playing out. And I just like to play. I don't care if
sounds like that.
if
It sounds
there's
like
an
you're-
audience.
Right, yeah.
It's nice. If there's nobody, it's nice. If I get a chance to play with other musicians, that's certainly a wonderful treat and experience. And I've been blessed to play with some of the finest musicians, I think, in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, just hearing you, the way you describe it, you're really kind of just like, okay, this group here, I can play with them, or I can play with them, kind of just embracing and loving music to the point where whomever...
People gave me the opportunity, you know, people
like,
say,
I can
Al.
play with you?
Yeah, they say, hey, Alvin, you know, we want somebody to play congas.
Right.
And I go, well, yeah, okay.
I love the humility, though, because you are a phenomenal artist and musician, and yet you're just so humble. You're like, I can play with you. You know, like, I appreciate that.
I really do. We're going to head on toward Africa by way of Cuba. This next piece we'd like to present for you is called Afro Blue. It was made popular by Mongo Santa Maria. I'm sure a lot of you older folks like me, right, might remember Mongo. Played a lot with Cal Jader. He also had his own group and had a big hit with Watermelon Man. But in this case, this is actually a prayer, and but it's known now as Afro Blue.
People of Goodwill.
Yes. Oh man, I just want to give you a brief history of People of Goodwill.
Yes, please.
Okay. It started when I went to see this artist, Edwina Tyler, who was a female percussionist, played djembe, was a student of Chief Bey. And Chief Bey is our master drummer. Chief Bey is no longer with us in the flesh now, but will always be with us in spirit. And there isn't a drummer on the continent
Nice.
that hasn't either studied with Chief Bey
Yeah.
or studied with a disciple of Chief Bey or been influenced by Chief Bey. So I went to see Edwina Tyler, and she was fabulous. Piece of the world. And so while I was there, I had been reading this book about the Makedas, and the Makedas were these ancient empresses of East Africa.
Yes.
And so this one sister had her hair done up in beads, and she looked like a Makeda, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, wow. And then I'm shopping, and remember when Edwards used to be I was shopping at Edwards, and I ran into her, and I said, hey, I saw you, you were Edwina Tyler. And, you know, I said, wow, it's fabulous. I was just amazed, you know, at, you know, your hairdo. I think it's beautiful, looks beautiful. And so she said, yeah, I'm trying to, you know, learn to play. And I said, well, you know, I play congas, and, you know, if you want to get together.
Right.
So what happened was, Serrana was maybe about 2 or 3 months old, and Joyce was, you know, getting ready to go back to work.
Yeah.
And so Earlene, we worked out a deal. I would give her lessons, and she would babysit,
Nice,
and I would get, you know,
yeah.
also supplement that with money.
Yeah.
You know, and
Absolutely.
so she's the one that started People of Goodwill.
Nice.
She said, listen, Al, I told some people, friends of mine, that we've been playing, they have a place called a Reader's Feast.
Yeah.
And they want me to come and play. Would you come play with me? And so I said, yeah. So I said, listen, you know, Earlene, I've been working with you. I wanted you to get used to playing with other drummers so you understand how the parts fit together. So I said, okay, let's the three of us go and play, you know. And we did. And that was the beginning of People of Goodwill. Then Tim Wolfe came in, and Maurice Robertson came in.
Yes.
And we started playing. And my good friend Lorenzo Vega, who was this really fine Puerto Rican percussionist, you know. And so we started making music, and then Mixer Sean joined in with us.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and so and then we became it evolved from just unplugged in to plugged in.
Oh yeah.
Because when Leon now he's called Hassan. When he came back from California, we got together because I used to work with him. We worked with him early on,
right.
And he's turned to be a really fine percussionist. So we started playing, and Maurice and then Lance James joined the group.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Dave Smith joined the group. My son started playing drums.
Yeah.
Melvin Jackson.
Yes.
Fabulous. And Melvin is probably one of the baddest flautists in the United States.
Wow.
I used to say in New England. But
And
I
he's
have
so
to say,
quiet.
he is. He's just, so cool. But man, when he hits that flute, I mean, when he hits the flute. So,
remember Charlotte? You remember Charlotte singing?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I haven't. Whatever happened to this?
I don't know. I think I did hear she became a truck driver, but then I had
Did
lost
she?
contract.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That was the last. That's right.
That was Cold Building days.
Yeah,
way back.
that's right.
And
That's
lost
right. I
contact,
remember
but I would
Charlotte.
love to.
Yeah, because she did some stuff with us early on.
Yes, she did.
And so that was a wonderful group. That was probably one of my best musical experiences because it was just a really nice mix of people.
Yes. Yes.
And then it was time for me to move on. So
that's
I moved
how it
on.
is.
Yeah.
You feel a slide and
they're still playing.
Really, where are they at though?
They
I've not heard.
Oh, we just did a thing with them in Sigourney Square Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
this past Saturday before last,
Yeah.
I think, and it was fabulous.
So that's great. They're still.
Yeah. Because my son does a yearly thing at Sigourney Park.
Okay, yeah.
And he wasn't even sure it was going to happen, but thanks to people of goodwill, everything coalesced around them. And people came and volunteered for Alvin. I was very happy for him.
He's doing great.
Yeah,
he knows how to make it happen, and he's taking on what you gave him.
He gets things
He's like
done.
setting the bar high. That one.
He is. So
So let's fast forward to now, and what type of groups are you in now? So we have Smoke and Mirrors, but I'm sure you're doing.
I'm still playing with my son. We play together in a group.
And that's legacy still.
That's legacy, but now we play together in a group called the Afro-Semitic Experience.
Okay.
And what that is, it's an interesting thing. It's Jewish religious music.
Yes.
And African American religious music played with a jazz touch.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And of course, some percussion.
Yeah.
And I just have so much fun playing with these guys. They're all like fantastic musicians, Warren Bird.
And I'm sure the energy is amazing, right?
Oh, it is. It is amazing. And I replaced a fantastic percussionist called Baba David, and he moved to Ohio, and he's well known in New York,
so
and
you
New England.
Took that role.
Yeah,
He had
everybody. If you mention the name
right.
David Coleman to most drummers, they would go, "Oh yeah, I know, Baba. Yeah, David. Yeah." So
That's beautiful.
And I was able to replace him, and I never say I replaced him,
right.
Because to me he's irreplaceable, because he's the one that explained that Afro Blue is really a prayer to Obatala.
Oh right,
in the religion of
played,
Ifa.
yes.
Yeah, and Obatala is equivalent to Christ, and because Obatala dresses in white. So in any case, I just have had so much fun playing with these guys, and we have something coming up. I think the day before my birthday, September 17th.
Okay. And what event is that?
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
That's fine.
I'm sorry. I know it's
If
going
I
to
get
be
the
in New
information,
Haven.
I can always put it in. That's
And
fine.
I'm going to have
Okay.
to Google it.
That's fine. Before we go, I want to ask you just one question. What advice would you give young artists?
Wow. Listen to your spirit. You know, your mind can trick you, your heart can fool you, but your spirit will never steer you wrong. That would be my advice. And remain true to what, listen and then act on it.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And it
Michelle.
is, like I said, an honor and my extreme pleasure to have you here and just to feel your energy and hear what it is you have to offer. And it's a beautiful thing. And I honestly just thank you for giving that to every generation that you touch, from the young to old, and it's just going on. And also what you do for your son and how he's now.
Well, he's carrying the torch
and
because he plays rings around me on congas now,
Very talented, I have to say. So that's awesome. But thank you for joining us, and it is my pleasure. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here at Artistic Expressions. Michelle Thomas, we just had an interview with Brother Alvin Carter Sr. And again, thank you for joining us. And remember to support the arts and your local artists.
Hold your head up, don't give up. You are black gold, you are, black gold, black gold, black gold, black gold.
Hey, my name's J.C. McCauley, and I want to really encourage you to take time out of your schedule and watch Artistic Expressions. I mean, they're going to give you all the information you need to know about the art scene here in Greater Hartford, in Connecticut, in fact, in New England. Artistic Expressions with George, my man, Milner.